Good evening and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the history and geography of Nepal. Nepal is located in kind of like central eastern Asia. It is bordered by China up here to the north. Very famous border we'll talk about in a minute. And it is bordered down here by, sorry for the shadow, it's bordered by India, all down here and up here. Nepal is definitely mostly famous for the mountains. The Himalayas, you can see the Himalayas coming through. The highest mountain range in the world. And Nepal is home to the highest point in the world. Right here is Mount Everest. And after history, I'm going to grab my tablet and we're definitely going to take a look at Mount Everest. This book we're going to flip through tomorrow, because there's not really a lot of pictures in it. Mount Everest. And there are many, many, many other very, very, very high peaks in Nepal. Lhasa is just about here. I think it's number 4 in the world. Kanchenjunga is over here. I think it's number 3. Who else? Annapurna. Let me see. Annapurna is right here. Very sacred mountain. I think it's like number 6 or 7 in the world. Makulu is just over here. I think that one's number 5. Anyway, I cannot remember the order of the highest mountains in the world, but most of the highest mountains in the world are in Nepal. It's really neat. I can't wait to grab my tablet and show you what Mount Everest looks like on Google Earth. In Nepali, Everest is Sagarmatha, sorry. So this is Sagarmatha National Park, where you can come and see the mountains, or if you're bold enough, climb them. There are other various little parks in the area. Little parks, gigantic parks, full of very, very high perilous peaks. These areas are protected, not just because they're important to the world, but they're also very sacred to many of the peoples who live in the mountains. Just south of the Himalayas is this region over here, known as the Pahad. It is an area that is mountainous, but doesn't really get snow. Very rocky. And lots of valleys and rivers, and lots of farming happening in those valleys, and lots of big cities, like the capital city of Kathmandu. We're going to talk about Lalitpur a little bit in history. There's Pokhara right here, and among various others. You can see this is the Mahabharat range, so not the Himalayas, but an offshoot. Maybe someday in a couple 100 million years they'll be just as high as the Himalayas, because the Himalayas are growing. The Indian subcontinent is still smashing into the big Asian plate up here, creating big, big, big mountains. So I remember learning in school that Everest was 29,029 feet, or sorry, 29,028 feet, I think, when I was little. Now it's up to 29,035 feet. So they're constantly growing. So maybe this range will grow as well someday, but not any time in human history. In particular, there's a region over here which is known as the hilly region. It's not its official name, it's what it's called in every source that I've looked up, the hills over here. There are lots of diverse people groups that live exclusively in just the hilly region over here. So it's important to note. The last area is just down here. This is the Terai, and this area is very flat and marshy and wet. Mainly because of the Gangetic Plain. The big Ganges River comes through this part of India and makes this whole area down here very, very wet. Can you see the Ganges on here? It's right here. And also, all of the water and snowmelt coming off the Himalayas creates all of these extra rivers So the Gangetic Plain and the Himalayan snowmelt meet in this area and has flattened it and made it very wet and marshy, perfect for farming, especially like rice, And the most famous area down here in terms of its beautiful geography is Chitwan National Park. This is a big tourist draw because you can find elephants and Asiatic rhinos and all kinds of wonderful wildlife in this park. So you can come do safaris here in this park. It's very, very beautiful. We'll take a look at that on the tablet as well. And in a nutshell, that's about it for the geography of Nepal. It's a remarkable country. It is so beautiful. There are so many different cultures and lifestyles that create this very unique identity. There is not one culture that is the predominant one. And you're going to find out why in its history. Let's get into it. The first humans would have arrived in this area about 30,000 years ago, with the first farming happening around 6500 BCE. The first known dynasty in what's now Nepal was the Gopala, but as soon as they rose to prominence, they were replaced by the Kirata, which was the first real, dominant political power in what's now Nepal. But there were various other little kingdoms, principalities, territories all throughout the region. One of them being Shakya, and that kingdom had a prince named Siddhartha Gautama who lived a very lavish, comfortable lifestyle. One day he went outside and saw all the suffering and misery that was happening, all the starvation, the poverty, and he was shocked, and he left his comfortable life to live as a beggar and explore all the different kinds of spiritual ways to enlighten yourself. And he wasn't satisfied with any of the teachers that he came across, so he sat under a Bodhi tree and said that he was not going to get up until he was enlightened. And when he did get up, he was known as the Buddha. Thus, Buddhism was born and spread out from Nepal, mainly into Tibet. Happened. The conversion of the Tibetan area happened because a Nepalese princess was married to the king up here, and she converted him, and he spread Buddhism throughout that region up there, but it spread all over the place. It's a beautiful religion. And the Buddha would have lived approximately from 563 to 483 BCE, so that's where we are in history. Most famously, Emperor Ashoka from India, from the Maurya dynasty, came to this area. Kind of like the Buddha, he was a king, but he was a warrior king. He unalived a lot of people, I should say. He defeated many, many people on the battlefield. Many people lost their lives because of him. And it just kind of came to him one day, and he was so shocked that he became a devout Buddhist and spread it all throughout his kingdom, which included what's now Nepal. So he came to the place where Buddha was born, Lumbini, and erected a pillar there and visited the other sites that the Buddha would have visited. Eventually, in 400 CE, the Lichani were the dominant kingdom in the area. They were later replaced by the Thakuri, who did not keep records of its history, so that era is known as the Dark Ages. Eventually, the Khas people would have rose to prominence. They also had various different kingdoms, principalities, people groups scattered about, and they were slowly starting to unite. And these were the people who spoke what's now the Nepali language. So as they rose, they spread that language around. The first big Khas empire was the Malla Empire. They came to power, introduced the caste system like in India, and they were the ones who built the Durbar Square. There are 3 squares in Kathmandu, in Bhaktapur, and Lalitpur that have Durbar squares, which are temple complexes, and we'll take a look at Kathmandu's on the tablet, but it's a very important place in Nepal. Let's see. Next, let's skip ahead to the 18th century. There were many other different kingdoms, principalities, and people groups rising and falling from power all throughout Nepal. Mostly the ones that I mentioned centered around Kathmandu, or would come to conquer Kathmandu. But in the 18th century, there was a kingdom from kind of this area here, known as the Gorkha. The Gorkha, kind of like the Mongols, one day woke up and chose violence. And they said, let's conquer the world. And they started to conquer the area thanks to their Gurkha warriors. The Gurkha warriors were the fiercest on the battlefield. And they swept through the area, took over a lot of what's now Nepal. They started to spread it into China. They had a war with China that China would eventually win, but the Gorkhas put up a massive fight. They started to expand into what's now India, which at the time was controlled by the British. The British did not like this, and they fought a war with them. And even though the Gorkhas put up an amazing fight, considering they were fighting the British Empire, the most powerful military force in the world at that point, they had battles that they won, but overall the British would defeat them, and they would sign a peace treaty where the Gorkhas gave back the land that they stole from the British. And the treaty they signed designated these borders that we see today. The British actually thought that the Gorkha warriors were really cool. They were very impressed and said, what if you fought on our side and had our own special contingent of Gurkha warriors? And these warrior people were like, cool, sounds great. And there is still a military unit of Gurkha warriors in the British military to this day. They fought in both world wars. They're kind of like a special ops unit of the British military. They're still doing their thing. Later, I don't know how to put this, in 1846 there was the Kot massacre, where I have to be careful. I'm generalizing a lot in this video because there's a lot of very tragic, horrific things that happened in Nepal's history, and this is one of them. The Kot massacre was when many, like around 30 to 40 of the high-ranking nobility, monarchy, and political powers in Nepal were all killed overnight in a rebellion. Replacing them was the Rana dynasty. They were very pro-British. That's when the Gurkhas went and fought for the British. The king of the Rana dynasty, the various kings, started to modernize the country, but they're also very, very corrupt, very much in the pocket of the British, doing whatever they saw fit to do, and did not care so much for the people of Nepal, but they definitely began the modernization process of the country. After India's independence, after the people in Nepal saw what people in India could do against their oppressors, the British, in 1951, the Nepalese Congress voted to become more of a democracy, which worked for a bit until 1960, when the king at the time decided to scrap it and have one-party state, dictatorship, all of that, which the people weren't happy about. That's not what they had wanted, right? So it was another era of lots of persecution and unjust measures against the people of Nepal. In the 1990s, it was a very turbulent time in Nepal. There was a rise in Maoism influenced by China up here. People were like, forget this. We've tried democracy. We've tried a monarchy. Let's go like full People's Republic of Nepal. Let's go. So the king obviously did not want that. He allowed a little bit of democracy as a treat. But by 1996, it got to the point where it turned into a civil war that waged for 10 years against the Maoists and the Nepalese military. In 2001, another very sad event, the royal family was massacred in their home by another member of the royal family. Again, just generalizing because this is very tragic. Lots of very tragic events in Nepal's history. And by 2006, peace was on the horizon. There were more peaceful movements for we don't want the monarchy, we don't want communism, we want democracy. And finally, they were granted what they wanted, and they were given full democracy. The position of monarch was removed in 2008, so they're a full democratic republic at this point. They adopted a new constitution in 2015, and Nepal is on the up and up. Nepal's biggest draw is their tourist industry, by far. People coming to see Everest or to see the lifestyle of the people here, to visit the beautiful Buddhist temples. They focus a lot on that aspects of their country. But it's very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. So why there are so many people groups and why none of them is dominant is that there's just been so many throughout history that each one kind of overlapped over the other. And one was never the most powerful one in Nepal. Even when it was unified as one official country, there are still so many different people groups scattered throughout that are all very different and wonderful. So let me go grab my tablet and we'll look at beautiful Nepal. The tips of these candy corn nails glow in the dark. Can you see? Oh, there we go. Oh, and the little candy corns glow too. I love Halloween, you guys. Anyway, let's look at Nepal. So, first let's zoom out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. We're right here between India and China, and you can see the big Himalayas. Let's look at it a little closer. I just realized I just filmed a sound video. Right before this, I forgot to change the mic back so it's extra sensitive, so you're welcome, I guess. I think we gotta start at Everest, don't we? I think we have to. Let's see if we can find him. We need to go to, I think we should just do it the old-fashioned way. Oh, right down there. I was close. So here we have Mount Everest, which I've got to show you in the 3D. It's something else in 3D when it wants to go. There we go. Let's look closer. I'm going to get rid of that guy. And check it out. Oh, it's so neat. So you can see the border there with Nepal and China. So this is the China side. This is the Nepal side over here. The world's highest mountain. I don't know, I think the people that climb this are a little nutty. It's one thing if you like climbing mountains, it's another for bragging rights, but it looks very, very, very treacherous, doesn't it? Let's head down to the base camp. I believe it's down here. Like over here somewhere in this runoff. Nope, okay. Let's go back to this. Base camp. Oh, we are on the wrong side of the mountain, that's why. We are off in China. Nope, there. We were in China. So here's base camp. Let's take a look at it. So here's where you start your Everest journey. You can see all of the beautiful prayer flags. They're scattered everywhere for the safety and well-being of everyone involved in the big climb to the top. And of course you get, oh, that's pretty. You get like staggering views. There's a little village nearby for the Sherpa people. All the tents there. Is it gonna go? There we go. Getting ready to climb a beautiful stupa for some last prayers before you go up. This is on a path that leads to the base camp. I know I watched a video about this hike. It takes like 15 days if you want to do Everest totally like the old-fashioned way. you have to hike up this trail in the mountains to get to the base camp before even starting. But apparently it's like one of the most beautiful hikes in the world. Wow, that's a photo, isn't it? The burros there. I'm sure they're just donkeys here. The first base camp. So gorgeous. That must be Lhasa or Makulu. Not sure. Oh, cute. Oh, pretty. And you can helicopter your way part way, but it's too dangerous to go too high. And apparently it's very expensive to do so. So let's see what else we can look at. Boom, boom, Nepal. You can see my other searches, the other countries we visited. Let's take a look at this slideshow. Look at this Buddha here. Very beautiful. I'm sure most of these will be from Kathmandu. You know, let's just look at Kathmandu. That's even easier. Make sure we don't leave Nepal. We're not going to India. We're going to go to Kathmandu. Here we go. Beautiful. Very marshy wood, huh? And gorgeous city. Look at this big building here. That's the entrance to a temple. Let's take a look at Durbar Square, because that's like the place to visit. It's where when there was a king, it's where they lived. Let's see. Of course, it's telling me all the places to play, because I used to work at a play place. Let's see. That's jungle. How neat is that? You know, I rehearse these tablet videos. I promise you I do. But it's like as soon as I hit record, I completely forget where everything is. Is that it right there? It's the palace. Let's take a look at it. How pretty. Oh wow, fancy, fancy. Oh, pretty. I bet that's nice when the fountain's going. Little statue there. Let's go the old-fashioned way. Let's go. At least we'll look at the Kathmandu Durbar Square. Durbar Square. Oh dear, oh dear. I'm trying to pay attention to the video. I'm not even looking at what I'm typing. Durbar Square, Kathmandu. I promise you I rehearsed these. Oh, I was so close. Durbar Square, here we go. So this is a big temple complex. Very old palace inside. So let's look at the photos of this, because this is like, here we go, the most important site to see in Nepal, in Kathmandu at least. Lots of beauty here. Very old, amazing building. The palace there, the temples. So much culture and history, huh? There's the palace. The big square area. Ooh, very imposing. Look at the statues too. I like those. Lots of pigeons. All the tourists out looking at it. Ooh, and like I said, oh, that's a neat statue. These squares were built in the other main cities in Nepal as well. The last one. But as you can see, Kathmandu is like a huge sprawling city. I don't know why, but I always imagined it to be very rural, you know, like, you know, you see pictures of Nepal and you see villages, you don't see the cities, so I kind of assumed that Kathmandu was just like a very big village, but no, this is a massive, massive city, isn't it? Sorry, I'm laughing at all the amusement parks. If you haven't seen my videos before, I used to do kids' birthday parties before COVID. So Google can't stop telling me where all the kid places to play are. But isn't this gorgeous? Oh, let's say a waterfall. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, that's lovely. All the runoff from the Himalayas. Oof, very strong. He made the hike. Oh, you can just hear that bubbling, can't you? Oh, these are gorgeous. The view from up there, you can see it's just a big old sprawling city, isn't it? I didn't imagine that Kathmandu would be that huge of a city, but it most certainly is. It's very surprising. The more you know. Prayer flags there. That's lovely. Oh, look at the Buddhas in the cave. Oh, this is such a beautiful place. Oh, I love it. So, Nepal, you think Nepal, you think Everest and the Himalayas and all this snow, but there's so much more to it. Oh, you know what we need to see before we go? You know what we need to see before we go? We need to zoom out, and we need to go see Chitwan. Because, of course, there's elephants here, along with many other fantastic animals down here in the wetlands. The black rhinos, the gharials, their big, goofy mouths. They're just... And it's just a beautiful place. Chitwan National Park. The other besides Sagarmatha. This is the other big one. There's a little chimp out there. You can go on an eco tour in a canoe there. See an old village or something back there. Maybe that's the camp where you stay. And you can take it to a little jeep safari. You can see the chickens. A bunch of gharials there. They're just so goofy, aren't they? Such an unusual little croc. Oh, a peacock. You can take an elephant tour. The turtle conservatory and the gharial conservatory. You can see the little gharials on the gate there. That's so cute. And there's a buffalo and lots of beautiful storks there. And it's just a very beautiful place. So there's so much more to Nepal than just the Himalayas. So if you go to visit Nepal, because they really encourage tourism in a big way, it's not just mountain climbing. There's so much more to it. So it really makes me want to go. I want to do that hike to the base camp, but stop there and just turn around. I'm too chicken to go up that high. But anyway, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. Let me hear what tablet tapping sounds like with my mic turned all the way up. Not bad. I hope that you have a very good